Hello. We are live and just checking, make sure. I'm not sure what I'll do if I do check it and it doesn't look like it's live. But anyway, um,
It it
so
does look like it's live from my end, so
okay,
yeah,
well, we
it's
just got a
good.
little bit of different technology today. My camera decided to break, and Desi's on a mobile phone, so it's all a bit changed.
Yay! It's
And
great picture quality, isn't it? You can see all my white hairs.
yeah, yours is great. Mine's dire, but there we go. As a comparison for you. Ooh, there's a little bit of a thing. Um,
Ooh.
So today, here as we do this, it's about lunchtime on the 31st of December 2022. So the next time you'll be hearing us will be next year. Um, so today's topic is comparing the root of all evil. Some people say money. I think here's another option. There's another choice we can make. So, Desi, what's the dictionary definition of comparing?
So, comparison I've got here. Comparison. It's got two things, two main meanings. The first one says a consideration or estimate of the similarities or dissimilarities between two things or people. And they give you an example of how it can be used in a sentence. They drew a comparison between Gandhi's teaching and that of other teachers. There's another meaning to it. It is analogy. Perhaps the best comparison is that of seasickness. And then we have another one, the quality of being similar or equivalent. When it comes to achievements this season, there's no comparison between Linfield and Bangor. This was the example. And it says that in grammar, it's the formation of the comparative and superlative forms of adjectives and adverbs. Now, as I was reading this, I was thinking, why do we have even this concept of comparing? Where did the need to compare come from? Who came up with the need to compare? Why do we need to compare? Where is it coming from?
Well, I think there's
Is it
legitimate things to
to
compare.
keep us safe? Is it to keep us safe? Thinking about it in antiquity when human beings, well, I don't know how we came to be on this planet, but is this the reason that we are still here? Because we compare and we choose what's less dangerous. Is that what it is? Does it come from a very primitive type of need, kind of need, a primitive brain working to protect us?
Well, I think that if you're using comparison as a way of grouping things or finding similarity between things, objects, and stuff like that, then it's useful because you can say, oh, yeah, that's similar to this. It's like if you've got if someone says, "What does it taste like?" and you say, "Well, it's compare. You can compare it with such and such," which is essentially saying it's similar to this. So a dragon fruit is similar to I don't know melon and something or whatever. It's like it's a similar taste to this. So it gives people an idea, something to basically focus on. Um, The trouble is, the problem is when it starts getting to compare people, because here there's a judgment which is not emotive, but it has an impact. Like comparing one fruit with another. I mean, like no one gets hurt, do they?
Yeah, but then that's again when you're comparing, because there's the meaning of comparing is again um, estimate, measure, or note the similarity or the dissimilarity between things. This is what compare means in the dictionary. But as we know, that sometimes the meaning in the dictionary and what we actually think about and mean when we say compare might be a bit different. So
Well, yeah. And also, you don't really.
Comparing, but it's also not just to compare that we say, yeah, that these are similar, but we also to say, oh, no, 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 these are different. As if when something is different is wrong or is bad and it's to be avoided.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but the problem of society is that with comparison often comes judgment, and the judgment element of it is seen to then be like someone's preference or someone's dislike or at the moment with so much being like um being in a PC, but being being a bit, what do they call it, on PC, like it's not um
Politically correct. Uh,
publicly correct,
political, politically correct with the current
politically.
policies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so with that means people are scared to even voice their opinions, which are generally comparisons. Generally, if this person's overweight, you can't say it, even though, and you can't say it because the point is that it's likely, if the person hasn't done any work on themselves, to offend them, and this offending people has become it's become a disease, really. I mean, it's like, oh, you're creating an offence, you're offending people, well, that's an offensive thing. Well, it's only offensive if people take offence, isn't it? If they don't take offence, it's not offensive, is it? It's like
It's that's the thing, the condition, the state of being offended. It's not because somebody, unless they cause you physical harm and do something to your body to cause a pain, then the words, and yeah, we did teach children to at school to be mindful of what they say to others because words can hurt. But the only reason the words can hurt if the other person has the wound for it to hear it and to be hurt. It's nothing to do with the real words. Oh, we're going into a deep conversation here.
yeah, but like, but the point is that comparing sets two people up as or a group and a different group to basically pass judgment, and the comparing is saying you're this and we prefer this, or any kind of comparing. We have to look inside ourselves and say, why am I doing that? Like, why am I like a typical one is people have money and there are people who don't have money, so you start to do a compare. Oh, they're rich or they're poor or they're
Oh,
this or that, and
you froze a bit. Oh, oh.
it's so insidious and built in to our psyches that we do it instinctively without even knowing. We just do it all the time. Like you might be driving down a
I
street
think there is nothing. Yeah.
you might be driving down a street and it's a street where there's a lot of old cars, or there's a lot of like satellite dishes, or there's unkept gardens, and you
Right.
immediately compare that with another area, and you form an opinion, and it's or you say, oh, that looks better on me than it does on them, or yeah, whatever it is, there's this comparison. It's almost like a need to 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 almost uh prove that you're better, and this is how comparison works. I'm better than that person because I'm slimmer, or I'm more, or I'm more intelligent, or I'm able to do something better than others. This comparison is all in all walks of life. Um, and does it
So
come
we
down?
seem to have a lot of problem with our connection, Chris. So I don't know how much this is going to be easy to watch. My connection dropped. I think your connection dropped, or I don't know how is it going to be on the actual stream. I have no idea. I'm not sure I heard everything you said.
Well, maybe it'll be recorded anyway. I don't know.
I hope so. So, while I was listening to some of the things that I managed to hear, well, my thoughts were, yeah, it's okay for us to compare, as to know where we're standing, as long as there is no the additional element of the making sense and making not making sense, the extra layer of the ego talking and making sure that you are better, faster, more capable, more intelligent, more. It's okay to just observe and notice, because that's why we have eyes and we have the concept of comparing. And if you're comparing, say you're working in maths and you're comparing numbers in algebra or any other kind of math work, you're looking at numbers. There is no judgment. Oh, poor you, 3, you are less than 5. There is no this emotional complication. It's just comparing there. This is 3, this is 5, or this is black, this is white. That's it. They're different. We know the difference because our eyes can see a difference, and there's no problem with being different. Nature all around us is all different. There is nothing that's the same in nature. Everything's different. Even the same thing, what seems on the surface that is the same, it's not. Everything is different. There's nothing that's the same. So having seeing the difference is fine, but it's just the attaching of this humane element of the ego, um, is where the problem arises for some of us who are kind of too keen on following the ego lead and not. Well, it's not that they're following the ego lead; they don't even know they're doing that because the ego is
Trying to be
crap.
better,
Yeah, and I
in
used to
their
be like
opinion.
this. I used to be, in my eyes, I used to be, oh, I need to be cleverer than these kids because my parents said that. Or I need to be performing um, better than, I don't know, that person because they come from a more humble background. You need to be, who are they to be performing better than you? How dare you, um, you know, make shame, put shame
Well,
to us. This is the
that was
shame.
their
There's the shame. There's the guilt. That was their interpretation of this, and for a lot of time, it was my interpretation of things. So
well
that's that
they
interpretation.
they were parents. They're adults. They're telling you how to behave, so you pick it up and you become the same. It's not it's not impossible to hear this. And you were a school teacher. The kids are small versions of their parents, swearing and all this because they hear it. Like where else are they going to get it from? To be honest, they don't get it from the school. You're not telling them to sit down or
Hmm.
you're going to do something terrible to them. But like my somewhere where I think it was quite interesting. I was doing yoga, a few years back, and there are other people doing yoga, and there's people who say, "Oh, well, I'm not as good as that person. I can't do that." It's like, what does it matter? Like, just because that person's better at yoga isn't going to make you any better. Like,
It's if I can remember myself also thinking that
yeah,
many, well, a few years ago, not many.
yeah.
and it comes from, I'll tell you where it comes from because you probably don't have it, but it comes from a deep, feeling of not accepting your body, that your body is not as flexible as the body of that other person. And it doesn't matter how many years they've been doing yoga and you've only just started, it's still shame. You're ashamed of the state of your body. You're ashamed of how you look. And it's just on a yoga mat, it demonstrates itself in this. Oh, I'm not as good as them.
I mean,
And it
yeah,
comes from these beliefs that we have about ourselves. Um, not
yeah,
beliefs that I believe I don't know, it beliefs like I'm not good enough, beliefs that my body is not very pretty, beliefs that I can't do this, beliefs. I don't know, all these different conclusions that we have.
I mean,
And
we
that's
were
how we make
listening.
sense of two things when we compare. It's like one is this and the other one, oh, I like this one, I don't like this one. Oh, this one's bad, this one's good. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, causes a lot of suffering.
this is why I think I'm not particularly good at giving compliments, because, and it's not because I don't appreciate what people are doing. By the way, it's like I I appreciate that the person has spent the time and the effort and the energy to do something. I appreciate their commitment, their persistence, their consistency, and their ability to apply themselves. Right, I agree. So the other day when we were talking about, a young child who's 11 who can do a Rubik's cube quite well, and there's adults there saying things like, "Oh, he's very intelligent because he can do this." But it's not, is it? It's what it is they have to be able to twiddle and swivel things on in a cube, right, or whatever shape it is, and they have the desire to complete it, and they have the tenacity to continue to do it, and they allocate the time in which to do it, right? It doesn't mean they're better or more intelligent. It just means they've applied themselves. Now, I can't do the Rubik's cube, so it because I haven't spent any time doing it, but I have absolute faith in my ability to do it if I allocated the time and the energy. There's not a question in my mind I could do it. It's absolutely no doubt. And when I see other people doing things, I think to myself,
Then,
oh,
mhm.
they've spent the time doing it. I'm really pleased for them that they've achieved something that they wanted to achieve. But I'm not comparing it with myself. Why would I?
It's comparing. I think people are kind of giving a justification why they can't do it, why they don't want to be persistent
Well, and
into
the
things,
answer is very
or
clear, but they
they
might not
haven't done
like it.
things.
So what they might say is, "You're great. I'm not because I can't do it." And it's an easier way to promote others rather than face the problem that they have, and they kind of
But
feel
that's
like
how it is. We always, well, when we
people
see
pleasing.
we look outside and we see things that are kind of really sticking out in our face, we always have the eyes for that because somewhere deep inside there is something that we have neglected for ourselves. So
Was
when
missing.
somebody says, "Oh, you are so clever, you are so intelligent, you can do this so well," what they're saying is they need to say this to themselves. You're so clever, you're so intelligent, you just don't allow yourself to be that for whatever reason. Maybe it's not safe to be intelligent because you have a belief that if you start promoting yourself as being clever and intelligent, people will mock you, or you think it might not be safe. I don't know, for whatever reason. However, you've come up to realize this as you were growing up. Being intelligent is probably not very good because you don't belong, or because other people make fun of you, or because
Yeah,
sometimes, I don't know,
every
circumstances vary. Mm.
and rather than say, like when I was at Watford Grammar, rather than say, I wish I was like those people that never got a grade less than an A. I wish I was more like them. I would say, the school system and how it teaches people suits their learning style, and they're better off at that than I am at that because they enjoy that. I don't actually enjoy it very much. I don't like paper and sitting around and looking at stuff. I'd rather be actively doing something I myself enjoy. So I had skills in areas which are things that were reflective of what I liked, and they ended up getting all the A's. Right? Now I could have had a lot of animosity against those people and felt I was inferior, but I didn't. I didn't see it that way. I saw they're good at some things, I'm good at other things, and like we need a big mix of people doing different things. Otherwise, we'll be a bit one-sided, won't we? And that's how it was. But I never tortured myself over it because some of these people couldn't even kick a football. I was pretty good with balls and hand to eye coordination, and they they were dunces. They were like down at the ungraded level, right? And I was up at the um, Olympic standard in comparison.
Professional.
But like, that was just the way it was. They probably thought, oh, I'd rather spend some of my A grades and be quite good at sport as well. And maybe that's how they were thinking. I don't know. I didn't ask them that question. But when we start comparing, we just have to look at what we are, I think, and just say, what do we want? How do we want to? And then invest our energy in that, rather than spending all our time looking at what other people have got and saying, I don't have that, I'm miserable, or they're better than me at that, I'm terrible. And like, all it does,
And that comes from a deep down belief in not being able, not being enough, not being capable, not can't do it.
which is a learnt behavior from what's going on around you, isn't it? Very often
Mm.
our parents have those issues. I remember my mum saying,
Well,
like, she was growing up.
I was supposed to be the best at everything.
Well, I remember my mum describing, she hated school, right? She wasn't against learning. I wasn't saying that. She hated school. And the reason she hated school was because when they had the playtimes and they were outside and you normally have one of the good or two good sports people picking the teams for whatever activity you were about to be involved in. And she was always last to be picked. Now, on a
Oh,
kid at school, I didn't even realize, because I was always picked one of the first ones, and I just like, and it's like,
you
I didn't
never
even
thought
realize.
about the little kid who was the last
How
one.
about those ones that never get picked? And I like, oh, do I have to have them? Oh my god, they're even, you have him because it's worse having him on your side than it was having. Like, and I was thinking, now I'm thinking, Jesus, like that's. I never even gave it a moment's thought. But that was why my mum hated school, because every break time she faced this.
Mm.
And it's comparison, isn't it? It's comparison, and so my mum had that, all of that inside her, and she could have passed it on. In fact, like, she could have easily done that, couldn't she? But I didn't pick it up. But some kids do pick up those things from their parents, and it gets transferred, and it becomes
Mhm.
another cycle of the same. And this
Mm.
comparison just compounds it. But when you don't have, there's other people I know where they got told, they were maybe the older kid, like you were the older kid, and then you're the younger kid. The younger kid was always good at things, and it's like, oh, look at your brother, or look at your sister. They're the clever ones. My sister had this. My dad saying my sister wasn't bright, and her brothers had all the brains, and it was like, I can look back and I think, I'm like, they,
You can't
and
say that to anybody.
the
Yeah.
school didn't help, because the schools were saying, like, you're really not really good at anything. You might be okay at being a secretary, or have you thought of working in a bakery, or and when you go to the careers officers, they're basically giving you a selection of dumbed down options, none of which are going to float your boat, to be honest. And it's so that it's
So this
perpetuating.
is how early on in life do we get um, this programming, this framework of I'm not good enough. Other people know better. Other people can do this better than me. I am just a dot dot dot. I am not good enough. No point in me trying because I always fail.
Yeah,
I'm not as clever as you are. I am not as successful as you are. You can do this, but I can't do this because it's just and it's because of evidence like this that has been put in front of us and poured into our awareness, into our field, that we have kind of identified ourselves with that, and it comes from the comparing because
and there's
and that
another way.
and I, mhm.
It can be done the other way as well. People are constantly told they're amazing at school, they're amazing, and they get out in the workplace and they find out they're not amazing.
Well, yeah, that's the other one. That's the opposite,
Yeah,
where they haven't really have. But none of these two options are a good option.
not healthy, no.
They're not healthy. They're in either way. There will be some misery facing.
And when you
Well, I
think about it,
suppose it's not that. Right, we don't want to be thinking about ourselves as some victims that, oh gosh, there, look, the circumstances were like this, and now this is what happened to us. No, because we can change things, but we need to become aware. We need to become actually conscious of what we're producing, what we are expressing, and how we're living our life. Because if this is not what we want, then we're not some victim that can't change things around. And we are not anymore these youngsters of 10, 8, maybe younger years old. There are things we can do, and it's not that, oh, yeah, you can do it, I can't. Everybody can. It's another belief that they have. So this
but a lot,
comparison can stop.
of these, a, l- but there's people who use comparison to promote themselves, to basically build up their own ego, so they're basically comparing to boost that. And there's other people that go through their entire life thinking themselves of something that they got assessed as having by comparison when they were at school, and they spend their whole life and they don't even know why they're thinking like that. They don't. I mean, people don't even know what was. Yeah, because it's lost in the annals of time about where that pain started. And this isn't a hypnotherapy session, by the way.
Mhm.
This is just basically saying that comparison starts it all off. And in society, we're addicted to comparisons. We are addicted to it.
So we're addicted because if you turn your TV on and you see all the advertising, it will be pouring you with that and telling you that you need to take this and you need to buy that and you need to subscribe to this and you need to invest in here because, and they give you the emotional reasons because that's how advertising works. Because otherwise, and you're going to tell your friends and you're going to show off in front of your colleagues and you're going to make your family proud, etc. So they're playing on this and it's constantly being reinforced.
And I don't know the answer. I mean, there is no one answer. We just have to. I suppose the answer is to sort of questioning when you feel like you've entered into a comparison mode, is to say, what am I
Mm.
doing? Why am I comparing that and looking at it? And I mean, the only way you can address it, like if you're looking at someone else and you're saying they look rubbish and I look much better, or you're saying, oh, look at that, she's dressed like a dustbin, or he's dressed like, why is he looking like a tramp, or why has he got long hair? Can't he see that the people have short hair these days? Whatever it happens to be, you ask yourself, why am I doing that? Why am I entering into this discussion with myself? Is it because
Mm.
I'm trying to make myself feel better about something? Is it the ego trying to, or are you going to then move on and say, "Oi, look at you, you tramp! You know, look at me, I'm amazing." You know, what's the purpose? To put someone down? To put yourself up? Why are you doing it? And I think if people do analyze themselves and take time to do that, it's not in this is a muscle. It's not strong in a lot of people, really.
But
Um,
it might be painful in some cases. So sometimes
of
some things
course.
are better left untouched unless you have a professional working with it to help you to get over it and transform it. But um, I have a solution because I came up to this not too long ago. So there is this, in maths, we have if this is correct, consequently deducing that this is going to be correct too, right? Because there is a like this is say an element belongs, an item belongs to a set, and this set has these qualities and properties. So if we look at each individual item in this set, they all have the same, they share the same properties and qualities. So, and we can say the same for any of those other items. So basic
Give us an
maths, no,
example. What do you
no,
mean?
no, yeah, I'm going to give you an example. So no emotion involved, no comparison judgment, none of that. So I am a human being, right? That's correct. We know this. I'm not a fox. I'm not a dandelion. I am a human being. So I belong to the set of human beings. Now, some of human beings have certain properties. Some of them can do drawing, some of them can do art, some of them can do uh, math, some of them can do whatever
Cooking.
humans do, cooking, writing, reading, whatever. And I have all the senses that all human beings have. I've got my eyes, my if I have a problem with seeing, I've got glasses, There are things that all the things are in place for me. I'm alive. I'm not dead. I'm still breathing. So there are things that are very common between me and this set, which is called a human being. So if somebody, one element of this human being, and there's a lot of them, can do art, why cannot I do art? I've got a hand. Well, obviously, if you haven't got the control of your hand, or you haven't got a hand, or maybe something happened to your hand. Okay, in that case, that's not going to be a good example. But in my case, I've got my hand, I've got my eyes, I can see, I can hold a pen. Why can't I do art? And there's no way that there is nothing in the way between me, because it's a human capability of do art, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Humans can do art. Simple axiom from maths, the statement that is true. Humans do art. Why can't I do art? I belong to the humans. What stands in between me as a human and the statement, yes, I can do art and I can go and do it, is me. That
Mind.
ego, that belief, the mind, the interpretation of what art is, what I am, and blah, blah, blah. So if we get ourselves out of the way, somehow it seems to be, yeah, why can't I do art? I belong to humans. Humans can do art, or a simple one. A human can.
Well, I mean, it's simple enough. The problem is that the human being enters into a comparison with someone who can do art already and says, "I'll never be as good as them. So what's the point in starting?" But the only difference between someone who can do art and someone who doesn't is
It's
they
the
decided to get
time. Mm.
a paint box. They decided to give themselves some space. They decided to give themselves some time. They decided to learn how to mix paints, and decided to learn all the basic elements that go into painting. And they stopped comparing with other people, and they thought, right, I'm going to create something, and I'm going to improve on it as I go along until I can produce something that I feel proud of. That's it.
That's
That's all the
that's the
person who
same.
wants.
That's the same. And the example with the Rubik's cube. There's a Rubik's cube. So there are lots of humans who can fix the Rubik's cube. So that belongs into humanity. So can I do the Rubik's cube? Yes, I have my fingers. I just need a Rubik's cube. I don't have one, but I can always get one if I'm really, really interested into this. And then it's just between
Got
me
one.
deciding and me actually being able to do it. Is just the time and the investment in energy and attention and
There's a Rubik's cube.
it says on my side. Right, can you actually
Disappeared.
see us?
You disappeared for a second. Did you see the Rubik's cube?
I didn't see the Rubik's cube. I was just
Yeah.
reading the message. There you go. So if it's possible, if it's humanly possible that something can be done by one human, and it's like the 4 minute mile. Everybody believed that it wasn't possible until somebody did it. And when somebody did it, everybody did it.
Well, not everybody. I've not actually done that myself.
Yeah,
And
well,
the Rubik's cube. You know what? Yeah.
I haven't done the Rubik's
So,
Cube either.
solving the Rubik. I have a problem with solving the Rubik's cube because once it's solved, it's no longer fun, is it? It's like it's a puzzle. The moment remains a puzzle. Once it's no longer a puzzle, I got to get something else, haven't I? Like, I don't spend
Mm.
any time doing it. By
That's
the
why
way,
you didn't. That's why you don't want to invest in it. Yeah.
It's right. It's just amusing when I have a bit of time and I think, oh, let's have a spin on this, and I haven't finished it. You know, like it just. But anyway,
So, what's our conclusion? Comparison is just a normal thing in our human environment.
well, I mean, I think your connection seems to be a bit poorer than mine. You might drop out again here, but
Hope you're alive because I'm not.
comparison seems to be an obsession with us, either driving ourselves higher than others or positioning ourselves lower than others. It seems to be something to do with affecting where we are and our status in society in some way. And it seems to be unbelievably important when such a focus is put on popularity, whether you're famous or not, whether you're doing well or not, and the criteria that actually we've been bombarded with to say what's been doing well or not, mostly around money and the amount of possessions we have. So it's absolutely inbuilt to our societal behavior, because we feel this need to go up or down compared to others.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with comparison in nature. There's nothing wrong with comparison in noticing the differences in things and observing and just feeling with the senses that this is this and this is that. Um, but when we start to put meaning to it in terms of our positioning, that's why I said we need to get ourselves out of it
yeah, but it's
and
not easy.
consider why are we interpreting this comparison the way we do,
I mean,
the way why we are interpreting it the way we are. Yeah.
I mean, just as a final thing, really, like it's not something you switch on and off like a light switch. This affects every single part of your life, and it affects
Mm.
everything that we do, and it's inbuilt into society. There's almost like the odds of you sorting it out are low. It's like it's low because it takes hard work, it takes introspection, it needs us to focus on what hurts us quite a lot and sort it all out. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. And we're all work in progress. Might sound like I think I've got it sorted. I haven't. There was loads of things that I do which I still wish I could sort out. And I will sort them out, but they take time. They're not like something you can do in like 1 week and you've got it sorted. These things
Oh,
take
it's a life process. Yeah. Mm.
take decades, and you look back and you say, oh God, I remember when I was like that, and you've improved yourself, and that's that's not a bad thing. But anyway, that's a
Right.
little bit on comparing, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe below. If there's a subscribe
On
button, which
this
I'm sure
end,
there is,
this
click,
end somewhere. Well, where's
oh
my
yeah,
finger? Where's my
and
camera?
click on
There.
the bell icon to make sure you get notified when we put something new up and everything else. And thanks for
And
watching. I
like
mean,
it and share it. Share
yeah,
it.
do that.
If you think that this was kind of interesting for you, you had some insights. Why not share it? So, some other person might really like. They might serve them even better. Or I don't know. I don't want to compare it now. No better. It might serve them
Well,
in some way or another.
let's hope the recording turns out all right. Anyway, okay.
Oh dear.
Bye for
Yeah, we had.
now. Bye for
Bye.
now.